Now, question number 4 is a story writing question. When you read the question, it has 2 parts. Write a short story in 200 to 250 words. With the help of the cues given below, give a suitable title to the story. You can choose either to write a story with the first line or to create a plot around the cues given here. Let's read the question. It's not always true that slow and steady wins the race. This was discovered by Rohan or Renu when? It's just the first line of the story. You are not supposed to create a story surrounding a particular case-based scenario. You have complete freedom to choose what kind of a plot you want to talk about. Or if you want to go by the clues, such as Rohan or Renu and his or her pet inseparable, one day, long trek, lost their way, separated from each other, used good sense, reunited, returned safely. This is something which is already given to you. Now you have to remember, story writing is something that is based on sheer creativity of the writer. You have full freedom to explore your ideas, come up with an interesting plot and elaborate upon the scenario with probably an idiomatic expression that could highlight the feeling of the story or a relation that the examiner can build with the story, just to see how comfortable you are in that form of writing. Now when you read the question, remember the marking scheme is a 10 marker question. How are these marks divided is what I should remember. The distribution goes such as title carries 1 mark. If you do not provide a suitable title, this 1 mark goes straight away. Content 4 marks, accuracy 2.5, fluency 2.5. In accuracy and fluency, the examiner is going to look at your expression of writing. How much have you written in both direct and indirect speech? And if these elements are not there, you probably would not be fared that well in your story writing. Even if your plot is good, creative, considerably interesting, but you miss out on the narrative aspect of the story still remains a flat-ended reading experience for the examiner. So remember, while writing a story, take a pause, think clearly about your plot line and frame the narrative in separate, simple, clear outline. Do not be in a rush to just leave it open-ended. So now what are the elements that I should keep in mind while writing a story? To summarize it for you, we have them illustrated here. The elements of story writing begin on simple terms. Look at the very first one, theme. Something important that the story tries to tell. If your story doesn't have a theme significant enough for the examiner to interest him, it loses out on the value of that story. Look at the second one, plot, the systematic arrangement of events. The key word here is how it's a systematic arrangement. If it's not clearly laid out, the plot seems confusing, dull, might not be loved by the examiner. Structure. A good story needs a good structure. You can choose to write either in first person or in third person. There is no clear distinction what kind of a story is always interesting. It should be consistent in tense usage is what you have to remember. Either in present or in past, do not have irregular tense fluctuations because that highlights your grammatical errors. Moving further, you are supposed to pay attention to the characters. Do not create a story with overburdened number of characters. 3 to 4 is a good decent number. Know your characters well. Main character should be someone whom readers can feel something in common with. They should be able to attach or probably connect themselves with the lead characters of your story. Then the style and tone is equally important. Use language that is right for your story, not because it's flowery, difficult word usage that is going to impress the examiner. Keep it simple, but something that you are well aware of. Use action and speech to let the readers know what's happening. Use both direct and indirect speech. Use simple words and sentences with idioms to enhance expression. Then the biggest part of the story is your climax, the twist in the tale that keeps the reader engaged. If I do not have a strong climax, I may not be able to interest the reader to further go on reading my story. Finally, the conclusion has to be an emphatic one. The end of the story must be definite. If it's not a definite ending, it may not impress my examiner to that extent that he would want to give my story a 10 on 10. Consider yourself in the footsteps of the examiner and then see, was it a story worth telling? If it was, then I'm sure you will be very happy with your response. Remember, the title has to be there at the top of the story, not at the bottom of the story. If it's there, then your answer should be satisfactory enough for the examiner to score you a good score. In this question, we have analyzed two kinds of story writing, a first line based or a cue pointer based. Remember, your story should be interesting is what is the key word here. I hope the explanation was clear. Now we look at the grammar questions in the next segment.